Hi folks, hope you're good. This is a video about calendar reform. My last video was also about calendar reform, so it's been in a state of flux in my mind. I've been changing my mind a bit about this. So I think in the last video I was saying I recommend a 4-day week. So instead of a 7-day week, we have a 4-day week, and making 2 days work days and then 2 days off in a kind of standard work week. Now, everybody would have freedom of choice to work more or work less in my kind of society, but I'm just imagining the average person. But had a little extra bit of thinking, and I reckon it's better instead of working 2 8-hour days in a row and then 2 days off, having a kind of weekend. I think what would be actually better, you could do the same amount of work if you do a 1 day intensive sort of 12-hour shift. Then you could have 2 days off, and that adds up to the same, like 4 hours a day on average, which I reckon is going to produce a similar output to our current 40-hour week or whatever it is in terms of 7-day weeks. So that leaves me with an awkward number though. So that leaves a kind of 3-day week. And that's a bit painful in terms of if you want to split the week in half or do something every other day, it's out of sync. So what I think we should do is a 6-day week and have the first day of the week and the fourth day of the week being these 12-hour shift days, and then the other 4 days being off. So you sort of have two weekend type things a week. And maybe it doesn't work that well because maybe it'll be confusing because the midweek sort of weekend thing will feel like the end of the week one. It'll feel like a 3-day week anyway or something. But I think on balance is kind of the best. So I've done a video about the 6-day week before, and in that video I was talking about it being a 6-day week will divide into the year 61 times. You have 61 weeks a year, and I was talking in terms of just numbering the weeks there, getting rid of all this 1st of February and all that, getting rid of months. And then I forget if I got around to saying that in that video, but you could just rename the days of the week A day, B day, C day, D day, E day, and F day. And then you can express the date as just 41F or 36C or that kind of thing, where the first two numbers are the week number, and then the letter is the day of the week. Another alternative to that is I was thinking of, because with that one you start the year, the first, you have like decade kind of problem where the first decade is decade 0 and the second decade into the 10 weeks is decade 1, and that's kind of confusing. So maybe you do need another unit, which is a kind of 2-month long sort of thing, which I've been calling a leg in my mind. Leg is just a random word. It could be called something completely different, but you have 6 legs a year, and there are 60 days and also 10 weeks in this calendar. When you're talking about week 10 within a leg, that will be marked by a 0 rather than 1 0 like 10, because it just makes up one digit. And 0 means like 10 in this, if that isn't too confusing. And I'm oscillating between believing we should have week 61 as just an odd week at the end of the year, so the last leg is an extra week, or if we have like these days throughout the year, which at the end of each leg or at the end of most legs, which would be just an extra day off, like a bank holiday, but it wouldn't be it'd be a seventh day of the week kind of thing. So the next leg would start on a Monday, or A day, as I would call it. So the other neat trick, which I did go into in, I think, the last video a few years ago about this, about the 6-day week, was that instead of having leap years, we could have sort of leap weeks where I think 7 years are 61 weeks, and then the every eighth year is just 60 weeks. So if I was doing those extra bank holiday type days, which is a seventh day of the week, then there'd be one at the end of each leg, and this six a year, and then the end of the year won't be unusual. It would just be like the same as an end of a leg. But then every eighth year we just drop a week, so the last leg of the year could just be 9 weeks instead of 10. So we still have these nice bank holidays. We don't want to miss those things. I'm more relaxed about bank holidays than I used to be, because what sparked this recent change of opinion about this stuff is that I've looked up stuff to do with when people reduce the number, experiments where people reduce the number of hours they work a week, and they found going from 5 days a week with 2 days off to 4 days a week of work and 3 days off didn't make any difference to output. I don't know what industries that's in. Maybe the one works so well in some things, but the ones they looked at, that seemed to happen. So that just makes me think that you could go even less work than that, probably without losing any output either, or without losing much. You imagine it won't suddenly drop off if you go down to 3 days, too drastically anyway. So these ideas are all based around basically working, as I said, like the equivalent of working 3.5 days a week in a week of the traditional week of 7 days. So anyway, so that's my idea. We have, so let's say we do the legs thing. We have 6 legs a year. Each one's got 10 weeks of 6 days. At the end of each leg, there's an extra day, which is not a day of the week, which is an extra day off. And then every 8 years, we drop a week from the last leg of the year has 9 weeks instead of 10, and that's the system. I've also thought of some festivals to go with the legs. So, bear with me. Basically, I'll tell you these 6 festival ideas I had. Like 2 of them based on Christmas and Halloween, but they're kind of secular ones. So the first leg of the year, so could have what I call Thrill Fest, which is basically an action adventure themed festival. You can dress up as Superman or something, that kind of action people, or adventure, or hero. Second leg of the year, so the last weekend of the leg could be like where you're doing that kind of thing. Then Funny Fest, I thought it could be a comedy festival, or festival like of crazy stuff. Then Love Fest is more like a romantic love thing, like what do you call it, Valentine's Day, but it's in the middle of the year, so it's in the summer, maybe a better time to go out and on dates and stuff. Then next one, controversially, I thought Sex Fest. I know that might not work as a mainstream festival, but I think sex is a pretty major thing to celebrate anyway. Then the last 2, Horror Fest. It's the same time as Halloween in hour 1, and it's basically like Halloween. You dress up with scary stuff. Works pretty well for the dark time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And end of the year, by ripping off Christmas a bit, I've got Joy Fest, and that's kind of, we all love each other, community, kind of big hug sort of thing in the middle of the cold, like hug indoors when it's all cold and outside and stuff. So those are the festival ideas, and that's the calendar I'm thinking of at the moment. All the best.